Hello and welcome to the next video about economics versus the environment. We're still in areas of conflict and we're still on rich countries versus poor countries. This is the last part. So here's a quote. It's almost the worst possible setup for trying to solve the problem, he says. To have some groups that are already rich and powerful actually getting some benefit from this effect, while the poor sufferers are suffering even more. So on the left, she's saying, let me make sure I've got this right. You mean you want the rich countries to stop doing something that makes them richer so that the poor countries won't get poorer? And the guy is saying, yeah, you got it. It's never going to happen, right? Clearly, this is not very fair. We can predict that illegal people movements across borders, as already experienced by Australia, as you can see, the people in the boat in the top picture, and also at the USA-Mexican border, where they're building a wall to stop illegal immigrants to the USA from Mexico. Those kind of people who want to cross borders because they're coming from poor countries and they think they will be better in a rich country, that's going to keep happening and probably happen even more. When environmentalists in rich countries tell businesses in poor countries that they should not clear jungle, for example, the Amazon or Borneo, the poor countries sometimes see it as trying to stop their economic development. The same argument applies when countries like China and Mozambique are told not to use their coal resources. So here we have the big guy saying, don't do what I do what I tell you to do. And the little guy is saying, you big bully. They use two key arguments. Firstly, the rich countries do a lot more environmental damage per person than poor countries. So to tell poor countries not to damage the environment is hypocritical. If poor countries are going to slow down their development, the rich countries should pay them because the benefit goes to them as well. Some of the more radical thinkers in poor countries would go one step further. They would say that it was the deliberate policy of the rich countries to keep the poor countries poor, which is called neocolonialism, and that stopping development because of environmental concerns was a way to do that. So what is neocolonialism? The argument goes like this. Firstly, about 1850 to about 1960. So in that time period, under colonialism, rich European countries used the strength of their armies to conquer other countries in other parts of the world. Burma and Malaysia are both examples of this. Then once they had conquered the country, they put themselves in charge of it and used the natural resources of the country to make themselves richer. If they needed local people to help them, they paid them very low wages. After World War II, the European countries didn't have enough money for a big army. Fighting World War II had used all their money. And by then, the people in the colonies, the poor countries they controlled, were also getting angry and wanted independence. So the rich countries allowed the poor countries to become independent. In Burma in 1948, 3 years after the end of World War II. Now the rich countries had a problem. How could they continue to make big profits from the newly independent countries and use their resources when they weren't in charge of making laws in those countries anymore? The rich countries have used many strategies to achieve this. Here are two examples. Example one, when poor countries need to borrow money from rich countries, the rich countries make conditions before they say yes. Their answer is something like, I will lend you the money if you do something. The thing they have to do is something keep the poor countries poor. The poor countries need the money, so they have to agree. Example 2, they allow poor countries to export unprocessed crops like coffee beans to rich countries. But if they want to export the processed instant coffee, they have to pay a lot of tax. This means the poor countries stay farmers and the rich countries get all the extra profit from changing the coffee beans into instant coffee. Okay, back to the environmental question. What some people are saying is that the way the rich countries are acting about the environment is nothing to do with saving the planet. It's just another example of the way that rich countries try to keep poor countries poor. Neo-colonialism. They say, we think the process is green, like this. The aim is to stop damage to the environment, and the idea is we'll stop poor countries damaging the environment by using coal or by clearing the jungle. That's what they want us to think it's about. What these guys are saying is it's not really like that, and it's not green at all. Their aim is to keep the poor countries poor, so the rich countries can continue to use their resources cheaply. So they need a method. They need to find a reason to stop poor countries developing. And then the answer to that, the idea is we stop poor countries developing because they would damage the environment by using coal or clearing the jungle. The rich countries are often the users of the things that cause environmental damage. They are either the company doing the damage or they buy from the company that does the damage. For example, one of the biggest buyers of palm oil from Indonesia, where they're cutting down jungle to plant palm oil trees, is Pepsi Corporation, the US owners of Pepsi Cola, also Pizza Hut and KFC. So we can say that a very big US business is helping the destruction of rainforests in Indonesia. At the same time, US-based environmentalists are telling Indonesians not to destroy the jungle. It's not hard for people in Indonesia to decide that the US is not serious about stopping damage to the environment. Or it wants one rule for US businesses and a different rule for Indonesian businesses. And this is the end, my friend. See you again next time.